time as information security researcher with NetbyteSEC. He has previously worked as information security specialist and manager for Malaysian Computer Emergency and Response Team, MyCERT. His education background comprises of master degree in computer science from National University of Malaya in 2006. Prior to that, he obtained a degree in computer science from the same university. Encik Mahmud has been involved in the computer security field for over 12 years. His area of focus and interest is network security, honeynet, botnet monitoring, and malware analysis. He also engaged in several large-scale penetration testing exercises and to provide solutions for any vulnerability detected. Moreover, he is recognized for conducting numbers of training for organizations to talk about advanced security courses. He is also occasional speaker at conferences such as DEF CON, HitCon, Hack, In the Box, First Conference, Honeynet Annual Workshop, First TC, CSMAs, and InfoSec.my. He is currently certified for Sun Japan Gold and GRAM, GISC Reverse Engineering Malware. Menyentuh bidang pertahanan pula, Encik Mahmud sering dijemput oleh pihak ATM bagi berkongsi kepakaran dalam cyber threat intelligence. Without further ado, let's have Encik Mahmud to present his presentation dengan tajuk Current Cybersecurity and Digital Forensic Technology, Attack, Threats, and the Countermeasures. Dengan segala hormat dijemput. Sekejap ya, tuan-tuan. Kita punya guest tak masuk lagi. 2 minit. Okey, tuan-tuan, sementara kita menunggu kita punya penceramah, tuan-tuan dikenaki untuk mengimbas QR code bagi sesi pendaftaran. Okey, dijemput Encik Mahmud.
Assalamualaikum. Selamat pagi everyone. I think I need to enable videos, right?
Ya.
Waalaikumsalam.
Alright, Assalamualaikum everyone. Good morning.
Morning.
Waalaikumsalam. Morning.
This is a Sunday morning.
Waalaikumsalam.
Luqman, do you want to take over for a while, or do you want me go ahead with the presentation completely?
And take this presentation quickly because I already briefed about your background.
All right, cool. So I think I start with the presentation completely, yeah?
Yeah, let's proceed.
All right, cool. Let me figure out how to share the slide first. Okay, let me check. I don't see my PowerPoint here. Okay, I see it now. I guess you can see the slide by now, right?
Yeah, understand.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, can see.
All right. Okay. So, guys, sorry guys for a bit of delay. So, inshallah, I'm going to continue presenting this topic that has been assigned to me. It's kind of like having quite long uh, titles over there for current cybersecurity or digital forensic technology, threat and attack, and probably the countermeasure. What I would like to do is for these presentations is basically we're going to introduce a couple of meme or memes to indicate of I think cybersecurity, when you take it seriously, especially during the morning, somewhere on Sunday, it's not going to be fun, right? So I think we include a bit of memes or meme. So don't feel offended on those memes, right? So hopefully for today's, we try to cover a bit on intros and definitely you want to see a bit of issue on cybersecurity or digital forensic per se. And if you touch a bit of combination between threat and attack, that would be good ideas as well. Because I think issues in cybersecurity need to be explained within the context of threat and attack also. Right, the last one, the second last one, I think we tried to discuss a bit on countermeasure. I put it there, but the potential, right? If we have a complete measure, a countermeasure on cybersecurity, definitely we're not going to talk about cybersecurity today. It's going to be out of the business and probably nobody cares on cybersecurity anymore. The fact that we are still having to discuss here the potentialities of completely having a countermeasure to resolve cybersecurity problem is probably not something we can have complete solutions on this, right? Anyhow, the last one's going to be conclusions. All right, so we talk a bit about intros. I guess everyone is fully aware what would be the cybersecurity issues, depending on where you are coming from, right? It's kind of like huge topic. It's also quite dynamic per se. For example, if you guys still remember early this year when people stopped talking about work from home kind of environments, right? So we eventually end up discussing so much about a work from home kind of environments. And out of sudden, everyone becoming an expert in Zoom security, for example. I remember in Malaysia, we have quite a lot of issues in regard to Zoom security. One of particular, I would say, a product that allow you to do kind of like a VC as a similar to Webex now. So a lot of discussion has been focusing on those part, right? And a thing has shifted from a normal business kind of tool to allow remote communication. It's becoming a security issue now, how people can just join your meeting Zoom without any authentications, just enough to have link and just enough, to do quite a numbers of things. So I think in the sense of how dynamic it can be on cybersecurity elements, so that is how it defined the diversity of cybersecurities, right? And hopefully within these 45 minutes per se, we can touch a little bit on this topic. And definitely something within of my interest. And I'd say that because I would consider a lot of cybersecurity issues that we are not, familiar with. I mean, for me personally, for example, I mean, things involving on the cryptography kind of thing. I don't really spend much time on that, but doing cryptanalysis and stuff, but more like doing practical analysis on how malware abusing this cryptography. So this is probably part of it, and not spending much time on that. So I guess I just speak on in the sense of what I'm familiar with, and also discuss around those issues, right? Okay, I think we touched now in the topic of issue on cybersecurity and digital forensic per se. The combinations of digital forensic per se here is we need to understand how does digital forensics coming into these pictures when it comes to cybersecurity, right? Similar to digital forensic, we should. Hello. I hit voice. Is it questions or is it like asking me to stop or anything? Or I'm breaking it up? No? All right. So for digital forensic, it come into the pictures when something happened under cybersecurity, right? For example, your Bitcoin is stolen. So definitely there is element of incident response or digital forensic coming into play. Same goes with when you have a voting machine that compromised. So you need to have like a digital forensic coming into play, right? If you got a hack by APT, for example, you need to have implementation of DFIR or digital forensic incident response in place, right? So those kind of like a need to come together. So regardless of how you position yourself when it comes to cybersecurity, you need to always be considered for doing a post-security incident or what we call it like digital forensic incident response kind of thing, yeah? All right, so I think the first and foremost is like, this is the first meme involving dark web here. I find your lack of cybersecurity disturbing. This is more like if you look at the cybersecurity, you need to have some sort of like a framework for you to start and to begin with, right? I think it's a good culture to have, for example, you building a new organization, for example, you set up something on cybersecurity implementation at your organization, you need to base on something, or you need to have a framework to do this. If you are lacking of this, cybersecurity framework, you might end up getting drawn by, how big the cybersecurity coverage that you need to, you need to implement or you need to understand. So I think by following a framework definitely give you help. And most of the times, if you look at into measured cybersecurity agency, then they have a bit of a framework for this. So it's a good practice to go. But this is one of the main issue as well, because if you don't have a good framework, how about like you measure your effectiveness of doing cybersecurity implementation? How you measure the effectiveness of how you are doing cybersecurity implementation or assessment, right? So you need to have a framework for this. And we have quite numbers of good, cybersecurity framework. For example, you have NIST, you have certain numbers of, standard from SMS, for example. Those are definitely a good thing to explore. And definitely those, frameworks not defining so much on the technicalities of it. It's more like giving you a good reference, a good best SOP, best not implementation, the best item to have, for example, right? So those part of like I would say a framework for you to follow. So I think the first and foremost, this is the thing that you need to have, right? Rather than, out of sudden you're discussing about like, hey, we got attacked by APT, let's do something. Hey, we got ransomware, let's do something. I don't think it's a good idea to begin your cybersecurity journey by doing this. So you need to have some sort of like a baseline. So by having a framework is good things, right? All right, so this is the point number one involving with our discussion for today. The second point is definitely a bit on focus on regard to cloud computing. I guess everyone is talking about cloud securities or moving to the clouds now, but one thing particular interesting memory from here is basically can we understand that eventually the cloud is basically just someone else's computers, right? It could be AWS, it could be Google, it could be Azure, it could be other platform. But just be sure that a cloud is basically just a someone else's computer, right? By all means, it's definitely within your control and whatnot. But just be sure that someone else owns the infrastructures completely, not by you, that you can really control it. And definitely when it comes to this cloud computing, we need to balance it out between practicalities, between the part of having I would say operational wise, those part of the things normally people want to move to the cloud, probably due to their financial commercial values as well, reducing kind of like a workload and try to provide availabilities. So those would be part of the uses of cloud computing, and definitely most, right? But when it comes to security, this is just something that we need to think out loud as well. When you discuss about like data residency, when you discuss about one point failures and things like that, these are basically within the topic of cloud computing security. So the issues around these are quite many eventually, right? For example, when you get hacked within the cloud environment, right? How does you get this, log? How does you get this memory dumps, for example? If you're not being equipped with all those things yet, then you are in the trouble. For example, when you are, handling kind of memory resident kind of malware, how do you guys get a memory dumps out of the snapshot, for example? Do you do it via your console, or you need to log into your system to do that? So those part of the thing that you need to also consider when responding to the security inside the cloud environment. Definitely, there is a lot of technologies out there that can, that can work around it. But then I would still consider that when we move to the cloud, on the security implication, we also need to check and also verify it as well. Now you have like a hybrid environments, the one that in your on-premise and also on the cloud. How does you do the correlation on the logs and make sense out of those logs for log monitoring perspective, right? So eventually there are a lot of other elements as well when you're dealing with the cloud. It's not just like move things to the cloud, right? All right, so this is a bit on the cloud part. And then I think that the third main for today is basically this, threat intelligence. We have a lot of discussion on threat intelligence for a couple of years by now. Like everybody have, mentioning about, doing threat intelligence, doing threat hunting. Only God knows what does it mean by this kind of intelligence, right? But the thing is, we need to understand when it comes to the threat intel, rule number one is basically is always be collecting. You need to always collecting logs so that you can generate, because log alone doesn't really represent anything. So you basically need to have some sort of like enhancing or enriching your data to make it knowledge. And then from the knowledge, hopefully you can transform to be intelligent by implementing AIs or whatever things from your disposal. But we also have to understand when it comes to the collections now, we are so good at this on cybersecurity. People or IT or ICT in general are so good at reinventing problems, right? For example, when we are collecting so much of data, now you have a new problem to resolve, right? Now you have a big data problem to resolve, right? When you're implementing kind of like a big data thing, now you have another problem to resolve now. Like for example, now you need to resolve in terms of how you build knowledge out of those data you are collecting. Now you have a problem now in artificial intelligence. Now you have a problem now in machine learning kind of thing. So we end up like having so much issues, and the fact that things growing in terms of collection is so much, we end up like having half-baked or half-cooked kind of technology. I think half-baked and half-cooked technology in the sense of for people who want to adapting the new technology. For example, you want to have like a machine learning kind of thing into your productions. You end up like have to move quickly to a new algorithm, for example, for optimizations and things like that, right? So those are kind of the things that we are always facing when it comes to these, collections. When you have so many collections, you end up having I would say, what we call it, like side problems, right? So this part of the things is part of the issues when it comes to this threat intelligence. I'm here not discussing about how effective is your threat intelligence still, but those are still subject to what you want to find from your data, right? And how you want to interpret your data. But remember, the first problem when it comes to collection, you always have now a side problem when it comes to managing the collections. Making sense out of your collections and be able to have generate knowledge or intelligence from your collections, right? So this is a really part of the topic on threat intelligence per se, right? Okay, next. Before I move to the next slide, do you have any questions so far? Feel free to stop me if you have any questions or you have any discussions. So just let me know. All right. So the next meme is basically this, right? Clicky pawn. Basically, this is what happened nowadays, right? We have so much of technologies or security of parameters, whatever things, but most of the time, people we just are clicking on phishing and then also clicking on whatever links that we provided, right? We discuss. I have a slide discussing about this kind of like type of issue. Because normally when people use email, when people use as attachment, there is always issues, right? And then understanding from the perspective of end user, this kind of like a hard problem to resolve. And we need to rely on technologies as well as awareness to make people understand on this regard, right? So most of the times we can provide awareness for people for not clicking any attachments on EXE. But again, how does you prevent people not clicking on links, for example, right? So basically, we need a better technologies or better tools to eventually do this kind of like I would consider as a assistant tools to help, rather than we keep saying, oh, don't click on link, don't click on attachment and stuff like that, right? And this is normally, if you look into this, if you look into the trend, it's not trend, it's kind of like an obvious statement that most of the company getting into got hacked and got ransoms, got compromised is basically one of entry point is coming from these links and also attachment or phishing per se, right? So we have a bit of problems on this, I don't know, since the last 10 years or probably the last 15 years, right? So this part of issues, even though if we look into this perspective, it's not so much on the technical issue, right? We always thinking and probably put a weight to the end user, right? You are not supposed to click this. You are not supposed to open this attachment, right? So this is probably the part of that we are lacking in the sense of how about the technologies component being built to help or to be assistant to the end user that probably I would consider naive in the sense of clicking attachment, for example, right? So what would be the technology behind this that can, dissect our email, dissect our link and prompt something if that is understandable to be malicious, right? So this part of the things that we still having an issues even until now, right? All right, this is on the fourth meme. I think we have the next slide in regard to this ransomware, right? So when it comes to ransomware, this is one of the biggest issues, let's say, that we are currently facing as within the cybersecurity element. But ransomware is basically the impact of this, right? The first one is definitely the entry point, which is the exploitation part. It could be attacking your assets out there. It could be, attacking your user to compromise your internet network or to compromise your web servers or whatever thing. And then the next action, course of actions, is basically to try to ransom your asset, right? But the issues around this, other than technical issues, is the temptations of paying the ransom, right? So you expect to receive a decryption key when you're paying a ransom. So that would be, something that out of, I think people that got ransomed might have thinking about doing this. For example, like, if I pay the ransom, probably much cheaper than hiring a cybersecurity expert, right? So might work the other way around, because like if you pay the ransom for, I don't know, like a $10 or one, I don't know, like the maximum is probably like 0.002 Bitcoin. So it might be translated to, I don't know, like $4,000 or $5,000 or ringgit. Probably much cheaper to pay that attackers rather than paying for the cybersecurity professional, right, to help you to recover to those incidents. But trust me, if we keep on following the trend by paying the ransom, things not going to be resolved. So it creates incentive for the attacker. Like, if we keep doing this, people eventually pay. So it's good. It's good money. It's good business. Let's do some more. Let's focusing on this ransomware kind of thing. So we keep, if we paying the ransom, that would be, the message that would be, the idea is that we are sending to the attacker, like, this is good, we need to surrender our money to get our data back. So this is part of the things, right? So I guess we need to understand people that doing a ransomware is basically a pure criminal, have nothing to do with hackers or whatever. No. So we don't need to help or in any ways facilitating by these activities by paying the ransom. I know it's easier to say than done, because when you are dealing with, I don't know, your final year project or your master or PhD thesis or whatever research that you are working on, the temptation of paying that ransom is huge, right? To get the data back. But I guess we need to be firm on this. By paying a ransom, it's no guarantees that your data will be decrypted and sent back to you, right? And then when somebody got a copy of your data, you are basically at the mercy of the attacker that own your data. Maybe they are not publishing now. Maybe they're publishing it, I don't know, 2 or 3 years or 2 or 3 months after you pay the ransom, right? Or maybe when you pay the ransom, they decrypted your file, but at the same time also end up at the someone else's Dropbox or someone else Google Drive. So we just need to be a bit careful on this one. But the issues when it comes to this are, as I mentioned earlier on, it's not always in regard to technical issue. Different perspective when you look into this ransomware is also something that we can take a look on this one. When you look into these, cybersecurity specifically, there is also a soft element, I would call it, that involving with something like a physical, psychology impact on this one, right? How does people respond to, when they've been ransomed, for example? Because this is have nothing to do with cybersecurity technical anymore, and have nothing to do with ICT anymore. This is more like behavioral kind of studies, more like psychology studies, right? So there are other things that we can also look beyond the cybersecurity perspective. And this is not only on the ransom part, right? So there are other elements as well. For example, we have a slide that involves with discussion a bit of, I would consider soft topic in regard to cybersecurity issues. All right, and then when it comes to ransomware, definitely there are different ways to get into your asset, right? As I mentioned earlier on, it might be resolving around a generic default username password. It could be spraying your password. It could be just anything, right? As long as they got access to your network or get access to your asset, then that is how, the next course of action they're going to conduct, right? Right, this is on ransomware. Changes. When it comes to cybersecurity, you always have hard problem dealing with people that not really understanding what will be the impact, and this is contribute to two factors. The technical people always talk about highly technical people, highly technical issue without concerning in terms of practicalities, or it could be different aspect. Like for example, why do we still need an EDR if you already have an AV, for example, right? So those kind of measures eventually not been translated pretty well to the people that are running a budget, for example, for finance, for management, and same goes like when you have web applications firewall. Why do you still need next generation firewall that capable of inspecting web application, web traffic, for example, right? So this is kind of like having a hard time for from the management point of view, for financial point of view, to justify why you need so many layers of defense. So this part of the thing, I guess, it's translated to a bit of hard for you to have changes in your environment. Again, you have noted on our point number one in regard to framework, then if you have ways to navigate your discussion or articulate the problem properly based on framework, I think it's much easier. But I think if you look into this COVID kind of thing, it's good to see how does the COVID eventually change the transformation for the company, right? Before this, if you look into work from home kind of thing, pretty much everyone say it's impossible for you to work from home and not getting slacking and things like that. But now, if you see with the COVID, everyone's working from home now, it end up saying like you are basically burnt out working from home. Because like at 10 p.m. you still having a live meeting with your teammate, right? So eventually you can work from home due to the COVID. I'm not sure if the COVID done, this pandemic done, everyone need to go back to office again. But I think if you can, from the cybersecurity point of view, if you can convey, a good, I would say, what we call it, like a good build, solid use cases, and I think we can have a better change. Because if you take a look at the incidents involving in Malaysia, for example, there are quite numbers of issues surrounding all software not being purchased due to budget constraints, hardware is not being replaced due to the budget constraints and things like that, and you don't change anything due to the fact that it's in broken. So it's in broken, don't fix it. So this type of things eventually have contribute to their old software, old hardware that's no longer been maintained, so no longer allowed you to do patching and things like that. So this part of elements, even though it's not cybersecurity per se, but the way we communicating from the technicalities perspective to their managerial point of view is still lacking, right? So I think part of this we also need to try to have good understanding on this, because like if you're running in terms of old software, for example, you are contributing to those problem that we discussed on ransomware entry points, those part of the things. Yeah. All right. So the next slide. Password spraying, right? I think this is kind of normal for us to maintain a single password, right? I guess if we do a survey today, how many people that we have now? I'm not sure how many people that we have now. Can I see the list of user? How many people can I see here?
130, including you.
130, including me, right? So if we have, if we ask honest questions, how many of us eventually reuse our password at one of our single portal that we are logging? So let it be Gmail, Facebook, Spotify, YouTube, those things, Twitter, those kind of like, universities and things like that. How many of us eventually having password that we just reuse, or password pattern that we just adding whatever password that you use, but adding the years behind it. Like this is gonna be my password, my secure password 2020. This is gonna be my secure password 2021. So it's part of the thing, even though it's not so much of practical issues on this, but this is still the pattern of how behavioral people when dealing with passwords, right? Certain people might I would say having a secure password. Maybe on the Gmail is ABC123, on Facebook it's gonna be 123ABC. But we still need to survive. I think 2 billions of keyword that's people collecting to just cracking your password, right? And the most problematic from this password is when you just need to have a single user to be compromised to get access to company asset, for example, right? And for the people that managing, I don't know, 1,000, 2,000, or 500 people, to make sure they are using the password securely is kind of also hard, right? And also from our own experience when dealing with initial access for a company, having a password spraying activity is always, what we call it, like the gift that keep on giving. So when you have recognized the pattern, for example, if you are targeting a UITM, for example, you can just spraying for, I don't know how many users in UITMs, probably 2,000, 20,000 user that having, for example, any email at uitm.edu.my. So you end up, there must be a user, must be a general user that probably just having a super secure password, like a P with alias SSW00D RD, for example. It's going to hit someone. That's we're pretty confident in those things. If things doesn't work, then probably we change to password plus 2020. And when you do this type of spraying, it eventually require almost like a zero cost for this one, right? So it's always good to have it's always good to have this sorry, somebody requests for annotation, so I allowed it. If you just want to, do annotations, feel free. So it is good to eventually to have this password spraying. The only thing that we have to understand here, if the attacker can do this, why not our, ICT security defender as well? We can always do this, right? And as for security for the user, it's always good practice to keep on spraying your own password to make sure it's not within the list of attackers, right? I believe in the context of Malaysia, you might be thinking that, hey, my password is having a Malay word, for example, Bahasa Melayu, for example, right? But trust me, if that is kind of school of thought that you have, thousands of people is also having the same things. Like, for example, we have vocabularies in Malay word, just only to sprays or just only to brute forcing the password belong to Malay speaking potential password, right? So that would be, the incentive for the attacker. I see people raise hands. So if you have any questions, feel free. Questions or somebody have a clicking, so and definitely one ways for you to maintain a good password. Maybe some say you using a password manager kind of thing, one-time password and things. That's probably a good thing to use, right? But I still are, thinking that if you can afford to do multi-factor authentication, that might be a good idea. Regardless of your password is ABC123, for example, it really doesn't matter as long as you need to approve from your phones. Regardless of, but then eventually you have a bit of, I would say, control in the sense of you want to approve or not. So it gives attacker one more work to do, for example, to compromise your phone, to allow or to compromise your account. So that might be good things to do. Some say like a password generator is probably good thing to use. Yes, it's also a good thing to use, but I'm not sure, is how you want to be practical in terms of using that password for multiple devices, for example, right? So you might ending up, copy pasting the secure password generated by your password generator, or you might want to use that within the, password managers and things like that, right? So this is involving with the password kind of spraying kind of things, right? All right, the next thing that I have is, let me click. Why did I need to annotate on this one? I need to. Can I just? Now I'm not sure what happened now with this WebEx. So it seems like I can move to the next slide because I can. All right. All right. This topic involving with the Bitcoin. Any new presentations on cybersecurity? If you're not mentioning something about cryptocurrency, is kind of like curse, right? So end up like I have to talk a bit on cryptocurrencies, right? So it's the same thing. When it comes to this cryptocurrency, we have dealing so much with this. I think, the adaptations of this cryptocurrency has been widely spread, right? How does, as a cybersecurity, we are preparing on this? Do we have a capacity to provide, a forensic analysis when something happened to your ledger, for example? Do we have, tracing mechanism when somebody exploiting your contract or your smart contract on Ethereum, for example? Those part of the things that need to be prepared. And I'm not sure if we also have a good framework eventually when we are dealing with this cryptocurrency. Do we as a Malaysia have a good, I would say, regulations or law or rules in regard to this, right? So even though we have, cryptocurrency exchange in Malaysia, then we have a bit of preparation that need to be done. Is there somebody stolen from this exchange? How does forensically that you want to do? How the detections that you want to work on those part of incidents, right? And getting people to discuss on this topic is just kind of the good things. As per we know, right? We know the purpose of cryptocurrency is basically try to allow anonymities on transactions. The main solely purpose is definitely try to, to make it anonymous for both sides, right? For the people that sending the monies and people that receiving the monies. And when you try to regulate this kind of the main purpose of cryptocurrency is eventually beating the purpose of this, right? So people might adapt things to it, or probably try to bend the rules, or maybe not doing any cryptocurrency in Malaysia at all. So those part of the things is also critical for us to look into. And definitely, if we are allowing this running without any security or I would say regulation attached to it, then we are becoming a problem. It becoming a heaven for people that want to do something on this. I mean, if you do for anonymity's sake, by all means, but then when you start laundering the money, when you start abusing and doing criminal activity, you need to be some sort of having responsibilities on those things, right? You need to be accountable for crimes that you are conducting on this cryptocurrency. I guess we need to also understand that cryptocurrency itself is not a problem, and encryptions or things like that is not a problem. It's the people that are abusing around this is the problem, right? And for us, in terms of handling with this potential abuse, definitely we need to have a framework or something that need to be regulated in regard to this, right? So for the cryptocurrency, these are the two main, I would say, issue now. Like in terms of our preparedness, in terms of technicality, how we are dealing with the Bitcoin, with these kind of like cryptocurrency issues. And definitely, when it comes to regulations, might be something that we'd also need to look into it. And I believe there is also we consider a task force that are preparing for these regulations and try to do something about it. That is upload activities or actions required. But maybe we also need to strengthen or speed up or those kind of things, because like this cryptocurrency is already happening in our society, in our normal transactions, right? So the next slide, again, I cannot use that. I need to press. The non-tech issues, the burnout things, right? When you're dealing with cybersecurity, it's so depressing to the extent of the knowledge that you need to I would say possess, right? I see quite numbers of questions being asked. I think we can we answer the questions at the end of the presentation. All right. All right. I'll take note on the questions. All right. All right, cool. Thank you. The burnout issue. The fact that if you look into the, did you guys bother to look the current job descriptions for new hire? I think it's to the extent it's just too much to expect people to know, try intelligence where they're just graduating from university. Come on, I mean, like, this is not something that we, matching back in the days, right? Back in the days, you have like a good log analysis skill, understanding a bit on security. That's probably good for you to start as a cybersecurity analyst. I think the fancy things involving with, the buzzword involved with the threat intelligence, those kind of things, eventually introduce this the concept of burnout, and people handling the incident is not stopping. I mean, there are always issues. There are always I would say a threat that are coming to you. So end up like you're gonna have a burnout. So this part of the issues contribute to psychologies also, and then I'm not sure if you guys believe in this or not, but for me, cybersecurity burnout is just a real issue. People just barely make it their days just to I think to stay in the cybersecurity, but the implication is just so big. The burnout process is real. Pen testing, doing pen testing, so many. I mean, at some point, it's kind of ridiculous to do pen testing, for example, within 2 days, expecting to be on the production by next morning, right? So this part of the things we need to contribute to this kind of issue. This is not so much on technical issues as well, but I hope that if you are from university that want to spend time looking into this psychology impact on cybersecurity, and I think it's a good thing to explore on this as well. And then it's also considering that everyone's working from home now. It's also good to have some sort of like once weeks, for example, to check and things like this. All right, so just make sure we look into this perspective as well. And then I think this issue is real, right? So this is a big topic on this one. All right, so let's go to the next slide. What I have. So those are part of the issues that I guess we can we discuss a bit. I definitely left quite numbers of issues that not being covered for this. Actually, In the next session, somebody else going to cover on this topic as well. Yeah. All right. So I think the countermeasure. Forgive me for being skeptical on this, but I guess I put the potential in there. If we have a solid countermeasure, I mean, it's something that we can remove the cybersecurity issue completely, then I guess we are running out of business, right? But eventually, I think it's always hard when you are dealing with technologies to eventually completely remove those threat, right? It's always going to be there. But having said so, it's not supposed to be the demotivation or demoting you from not doing anything. There is always the potential that we can do something to mitigate or to reduce the impact when you are having to deal with the cybersecurity issues or cybersecurity elements, right? So we touch a bit on the security framework when we discuss about issues, right? So I think the best way for you to do this is try to have, establish a good policy to handle the cybersecurity framework standard. I mean, as a start, you have a needs, you have, specifically inside all those best practice standard ISO, you have SMS, for example. By no means I try to enforce or try to promote certain numbers of standards and whatnot, but I think this is one of good things to explore. If you are from I would say from utilities industry, there must be a standard for utilities. If you are coming from a finance perspective, definitely there are other things involving with elements from banks. In Malaysia, you have RMIT from Bank Negara. This is a good thing to do. If you are from telecommunication, there are something from our regulator MCMCs over there. So there are a standard that we can follow. But the key things here is you need to have a standard or you need to have a framework for that. It should be, part of the action plan to properly follow through. Standard is basically nothing if you don't have any action plan on it. So make sure when you follow the standard or framework, make sure you have action plan on that. And definitely you have many activities involved, right? And when you're planning for those activities, always have awareness activities on it. Because you need to make sure that not everyone's left behind, right? If you are coming from telecommunications, people from HR is also part of your asset that needs to be protected, right? So I'd put it there. Like I said, you have many activities, but please, awareness is also part of it. And then I guess in terms of technicalities issue, technical awareness, activities, you have quite numbers of guides that you can follow through. And definitely when you have a security framework, you can measure your level. Where are you now? So you have a cybersecurity maturity improvement. Like, for example, when you do a security framework actions plan by 2 years or 5 years, you're eventually going to see your improvement, right? You can observe and learn how things have changed, what need to be done, and things like that, and adapt. So when you're adapting with the new technologies, you can see how you improve your security. And also, if you are following security framework, if you have a static framework that doesn't change, that's a good indicator that framework's not probably worth it for you to follow, right? For example, if you see now like how the corporate try to adapt with the work from home kind of environments now. Before this, maybe it's not compulsory for you to have antivirus install on your notebook to connect to VPN, for example. Now it's becoming a normal. Like if you are not install any AV or if you not enable certain numbers of endpoint protection, you are not allowed to connect to VPN network. The fact that this has been years for having access to VPN, but with this pandemic now, people start working on it, right? Hey, I think I need to go quick. And cloud security, I think I touched a bit on the understanding on the need and the usability of the cloud is a critical. Don't just follow because like everyone to move to the cloud, right? Let's move to the cloud because you have 24/7 availability. Is also good indicator. If it's available for you 24/7, 365 days, it's also available for attacker for that amount of times also, right? And then if you're not preparing your SOC to be ready for, I don't know, 24/7, you might also be part of the target also, right? Attacker probably working around 3 a.m., for example, to break into one of your cloud implementations, right? And definitely when you look into these environments, there are other things people discussing about, like, hey, let's enable, if we move to the cloud, let's try to do beyond COP, like do zero trust environments, let's do this kind of thing. I think these are good things to adapt and also to adopt into your environment. But again, you need to follow certain numbers of framework for you and make sure you are mature enough to do that. For example, if you do trust, or we call it like a zero trust kind of thing, or beyond COP environment kind of thing, just make sure you have all those people and make sure people are equipped enough with this knowledge before you get compromised due to the lack of certain numbers of protection. Yeah. And definitely issues around this involving a data residency, a single point of failure. Who have thought like you have a problem accessing your O365 when Microsoft is down? Who have thought that you have a problem accessing to your Google Cloud when one of the server glitch happened at the Google infrastructures, right? And of course, it might be something that you might think, no worries, this is a big company, they can resolve within 25 minutes per se. Well, I guess crossing your fingers, best of luck, yeah. And definitely in terms of incident handling practicalities, like when you get hacked, how does you get the memories, how does you get a network, how does you get locked and things like that. You also need to have some sort of visibilities on those things as well. Moving to the cloud is kind of sexy kind of thing, but hey, make sure you have things coverage on that, right? All right, I think we are almost 10 now. I need to go quick on this. So in terms of ransomware countermeasure, I think the rules of thumb for ransomware is don't get ransom. In a way, don't get hacked, right? Back in the days, I remember when we are dealing with a ransomware back to, I don't know, 2012 or 2013 per se, the encryption was crappy. We can recover from those, ransomware keys, try to, decrypting back, and there are certain numbers of weak cipher have been used. But nowadays, it's almost impossible to do that, right? So you need to make sure you don't get ransom. And the second rules of ransomware is basically backup everything, right? Try to back up things that matters to you. Again, this is easier to say than done. But I guess if you are running a critical server or critical data, make sure you back up those things, yeah? And then try to preventing ransomware. I don't think it's gonna happen. I think due to the financial driven from this, it's just making so hard for us to eventually preventing this. We know for sure it's a lucrative business, right? And these people that around these ransomware activity doesn't have heart at all. If you notice that I think last month there was attack against hospital by a ransomware gangs, right? If you guys still remember WannaCry, it's spread by infecting, NHS in UKs, right? And those are something that we're thinking that it is crossing the border completely. But for these people, they don't really care, right? I mean, it's just a purely for money. And definitely there are people that involved with this is kind of like a bit organized. They are not like your regular Joes or kiddies. They're quite a bit of skillful people involved with this, right? If you reverse the boundaries that involved with the ransomware, I wouldn't say they are really sophisticated per se, but the encryption part is done properly. So when you done encryption properly, for you to be able to decrypting those things, it's require a bit of the proper key and how you get lucky to hack into this attacker machine to recover the keys or to get master keys, for example, right? So because once you get a ransom with a properly coded ransomware, recovering is the mercy of getting the key back, right? So I guess it's a bit disappointing to say nevertheless, but Yeah, that is the function of encryption, right? To secure your data. But now you don't have keys. So that's one of the problems. So remember rule of thumbs, the first one, need to make sure you don't get hacked and get ransom for that. And the second thing is try to do a backup. This is the only best solution or countermeasure for this one. Yeah. All right. The second one is involving with APTs, right? If we can understand about APTs, APTs are not measures about the attack. Attack is going to happen, but we look into the persistency, right? They might use 0 days and whatnot, but you are looking at the last point when you are being part of the nation state target, right? So I think if you we observe APTC are using old exploit. It might be a new technique, but still old exploit. New invasion technique, but still old exploit, for example. Do we see a 0 day attacks against APT? Yeah, we do see this kind of thing. If you read the report and things like that, you also see you can observe certain numbers of groups are also relying on 0 day kind of things. Yeah. I think if you practice a good patch management and be resilient on the suspicious activities, it's also good ways for you to have a bit of peace of mind. And definitely you need to have monitoring tools for you and people to be alerted on those activities. But the problem we have is you don't have enough monitoring tool, you don't have enough people looking at those things, right? So if you look into our persistencies, we always tend to see, hey, it's already been blocked by our AV. It's been blocked by our enterprise EDR, for example, and everybody don't really want to spend time looking into those alerts, right? Why are you receiving this alert? Is it common? Is it not common? So the difference between APTs and normal thing is about their persistencies, right? And if you're looking at the advanced part, the A part, well, if you are kind of special enough, right? If you are part of the target by nation state, then you might have the luxury of being targeted by 0 day. But if not, then yeah, you're just getting the old exploit all the times, right? So I think if you are part of the nation state attacker target, maybe you might have separation of your data and segmentation of data or segmentation of asset. That would be the best way to minimize the impact. When I would say minimize the attack, I would say the hack's gonna happen for sure, right? Please do not feel depressed or feel hopeless when I say that you're gonna get hacked for sure. But if you have a real hard truth, this is gonna be the case, right? If you look at the iPhone, if you look at the Android, for example, even though you constantly been updated with the latest version, people still have 0 days against those things, right? It's kind of common. And if you understand this context, right? Context of assumed breach is also helping you to sleep at night. For those people that run in Kisser, I'm not sure is anyone in Kisser here. If you have like a mindset assumed breach, you don't worry so much, but then you are practicing more like hunting. You be alert, you be ready to look for any suspicious or anomalous activity in your network, right? So that's a good thing to do. So if you are part of the target of EPT, you're gonna get hacked for sure. But then maybe you want to minimize these separations, minimize the impact by doing separation and social segmentation. For example, phone for works and phone for normal conversations, normal usage is two different things. And maybe from the office, you might want to run a different OS for phones, and also for your personal use, you're running a different phone as well, right? So different OS as well. Same goes to your data, right? Critical information probably backup within the encrypted containers like TrueCrypt, for example, or whatever thing, right? So those might be something that you can do if you are part of the nation state target, right? Okay, I'm towards the end of my slide, I guess. Let's see if I have anything else. Awareness. For example, we discussed about like clicky point, right? Do we agree that links are supposed to be clicked, right? I mean, like it's kind of like a crazy to ask end user not to clicking on link. Come on, links are designed to be clicked, not designed to be copy and pasting, right? So somebody send you link. The most logical way for you to do is copy pasting. No, you basically just double click, pointing your mouse and double click on it, right? So basically, if we talk about this, awareness is important, but we have to understand the behavior of the user. So I think technology need to do more on this. Maybe real-time inspections or any link travel to your network, or if you're running on the browsers you're running inside your mail clients and whatnot, those mail clients and browser need to do a bit of analysis. Either this link is worthy to click and whatnot. So we need to rely on a bit of technologies. At the same time, also giving awareness might also work, but we have to understand there is always new guys coming in, right? So awareness never stop activities. Seems like a learning, right? And it's the same thing when it comes to attachment. It's supposed to be open. You cannot tell people like, hey, I'm sending you an attachment, don't open. No, it's not going to work that way, right? If we can do awareness in the sense of, hey, do not click on any exe file, that is a good thing. Do not click on Excel, for example. Does it also work? No, it's not going to work. If we have to also understand within the Excel file, within the PDF file, within the Microsoft Documents file, you might also still getting hacked by the malicious document kind of thing, right? The same thing when you say that don't click on exe file. Do you also do not click on .scr file? Probably not, right? But then the technology is always there, try to preventing this from happening, right? So I guess the technology part need to also play some rules on this, so that we can have better countermeasure when it comes to awareness kind of activities, right? Okay, I almost done, I think. Yeah, I think it's come to the conclusions. So much good. All right, I think conclusion is just only one page, hopefully. I think cybersecurity is kind of like a diverse problem, right? If you look into the nature of issue that we have, it's quite rapid, and then it's impossible for you to have expert in every single domain. For example, you can be expert in digital forensic in terms of Windows. How about like in terms of Android per se, right? So there might be other things that we need to see in terms of this. But I think we need to tackle the right problem. I'm not saying that you can't be expert in throughout the years, but you can spend your time like this year you're gonna spend your times on iOS. Next year you're gonna spend times on Android. The next couple of years you're gonna spend doing on cryptography and things like that. Definitely you can, but take time and make sure you are tackling the right problems in the first place. I think predictions is hard since it's involved with the evaluation of technology and the abuse pattern of it. I think a lot of people start working on the predictive algorithm to do a bit of detections on malicious or signatures and things like that. I think it's a flawed effort to do that, but I guess it's still hard problem. How people abusing technologies is completely unpredictable, right? And that is the thing. If you want to have predict on the unpredictable actions, it's not going to work. And we have to understand one thing here. We need to believe that attackers is unpredictable. So they do that thing, out of sudden they crash and find ways to mitigate, the mitigation that you have. So eventually this part of the problem now, like predicting unpredictable is just difficult, right? I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's just hard. But with a lot of energy being spent on machine learning, AI kind of thing, deep learning kind of thing. So hopefully we can have a bit of good things here. I think there are certain numbers of, even I said it's hard, but there are still of patterns that we can recognize. But the problem of the pattern that we recognize is we only recognize the non-bad pattern. That is also contribute to the problem. Like you're only looking for those bad patterns. How about people that try to be normal as a user? Like you have a command and control that behave as your normal browser activities. So it's hard for you to do a bit of recognizing the pattern if you're just only looking for the bad or bad non-pattern. You don't look for the bad unknown patterns, right? So this part of the thing. But like I said, cyber threats still can be identified and it also can be measured. In terms of measuring, I think it's depending on how your risk appetite here, right? To what extent you want to be chua. I think I can I use the term chua or nervousness on those things, right? I think you have maintaining your expectation when dealing with the risk appetite. That is also good. Trying to work with the environment that you have rather than having so much of worry. Like for example, how you have visibility on 1,000 machine of EDR, how you can have visibility on 30,000 staff that are having EDR. So sometimes it's just unsolvable problem, or you adding more problem rather than you solving it, right? And the point number 3 related to number 4 is if you're not focused on this, hence you are more on firefighting, right? For example, if you got a ransomware happen and it spread across the world, across the workstations or within your network, you stop like and nervously try to buy EDR without try to understand there might be the thing that you want to have protection is basically try to have non-active directory from your ED environments, for example. That might be something that you might have been thinking out loud, how you want to mitigate or try to do adaptation on defend in depth a bit. So this would be something that we want to consider rather than always firefighting. And then, hey, guys, in cybersecurity is still lucrative world, right? And people always sending FUDs to you. It create you fear, it create you uncertainty, and always create doubt, so that they can selling a services, they can selling a product to you. So just choose whatever thing that you require at the moment and plan ahead on those things. But anyway, that's just about securities, right? It's always create fear. Hey, what? And it's always create uncertainty. All right, and it's always create about doubt. So that's just always the things, you are in the loops, you cannot so when you are in that loop, you cannot get out anymore. It's kind of like rat race, right? Anyway, I guess a cyber attack is real and need to be addressed as such. Some people say like, hey, nobody interested with your data, nothing to hide and things like that, right? No, it's real. As somebody interested not only for your data, but on other things as well. Your identities, your Bitcoins, your Facebook. If you're running from Instagram, probably your follower is now worth it to compromise now. You have 100,000 of followers maximum for script kiddie to target you to compromise your account, right? Because like the followers is also have a values, I guess. Yeah. So I guess or cyber attack is real. So we need to deal or need to address it as such. I guess that's pretty much for my presentation today. I guess. Sorry for taking a bit of time now. Should we go to this? I think it's I'm kind of a bit of taking a bit of time. So yeah, can go. Do we want to go to the slide, or we want to end up end the sessions and everyone go back to Sundays kind of thing. All right.
Thank you very much for crystal clear and informative presentation. Actually, we have a couple of questions here.
All right, cool.
If you have any question, can you please write down, or you can ask webcam to webcam, Encik Mahmud.
All right. How I stop the presentations first, and hopefully I can check on the questions. Or I think it's inside the chat, right?
Yeah, inside the chat. Okay, Encik Mahmud, we go to the first question. First question, there are system or platform that have optional log in their logger. Is it considered a password spray?
Does single sign-on could lead to potential? I think if you have the spraying activities have nothing to do with single sign-on, right? I mean, in a way, it's a correct term for that. But what I mean by spraying in this perspective is it's more looking into how does you tracing in the sense of if you see the brute force, one user with 1,000 of password, right? But spraying is more like you have 1,000 of account, but a single password. So that would be part of the thing. If you have SSO that only allow for attempt for lockdown account for like 3 times, it doesn't violate anything, right? Because one user just only submit one password. But we have now 5,000 account with a single password. In terms of we want to consider that things, I'm scoring back to this question. Is this a missing? I'm checking the questions again. So I think it's the same thing. So when you're dealing with this single sign-on, if you still the factor of it just only still username and password combination, it still be subject for that, right? It's still subject to be this password spraying. So yes. And definitely with the SSO, the luxury of that, once compromise all. Because that is the purpose of single sign-on anyway, right? You just only need to single authenticate that single server, and then the rest you can just access with that sign-on, right? All right. Hopefully that answered the questions. I think it was from Akram. Yes. Do we have any Sunday questions again?
Next question, is there any script coin miner? Because I found on my laptop.
Coin mining is basically, I mean, definitely it's everywhere, right? It might be on my notebook too, right? So I guess coin mining is basically, you want to, I mean, definitely you don't want that to be on your notebook, because that is how attacker abusing your CPU circle to to generate whatever thing they need to generate, right? Regardless of the cryptocurrency kind of things, right? So you don't want that people to abuse your CPU circle anyway. So if you found it script in your machine, definitely you want to see either you are being compromised or is your brother install it to do mining mining the CPU. So yeah, but if you found that in your machines, then you might want to do the inspection. How does that script should end at your CPUs, yeah, at your notebook. So yeah, definitely.
From my point, dangerous if we talk about the crypto miner in our server, because last year I have an experience where when we check one of our server, if the contractor installed the coin miner in the server.
Yeah. So I think that's just the thing. We didn't touch much about the crypto miners on this topic, right? But I guess it's the same thing. The impact of it. Some people run ransomware. Some people mining the CPUs, right? So I think I hope that answers your questions. Is there any questions?
This slide.
Oh yeah, I think I can share this slide definitely, but I'm not sure what kind of usage that you can do with the meme, right? The memes. I think so. I will share the slide later on through Secretariat, and it's also probably Dr. Azima. Yeah, sure things. I think sure things I can share the slide.
So is there any question, guys?
All right.
In the chat box.
In the chat box.
From the
Yeah.
chat box, I think. Okay. Is it a Windows Defend? Is it a question from my Sarah? I think is it the Windows Defender enough to secure the notebook, right? The laptop. All right. Let put this way. Coming from people that doing a bit of security assessment, that is always not enough in terms of this, right? But like I said earlier on, you can always segmentizing your asset, right? For example, if you have, but then again, Windows Defenders is better than nothing. And be minded also, I think Windows Defenders nowadays is also is getting a bit of, I would say, quite mature in terms of detections now. So the thing is here, if you said enough, I would say not. You need to have a bit of combinations with multiple things also. Like I said, you can do enable certain numbers of, for example, other product. You might want to install it. But in terms of for example, in terms of make sure things being detected, having Windows Defenders doesn't seem to be bad ideas, right? Did I breaking up? Since macam breaking up sih.
Okay.
All right, cool. Okay, the next question is Pegasus was called attack. Sorry, I have no ideas on this topic. I can't really. I can Google for a while, but sorry, I don't have any information on this. The only thing that I know, Pegasus is basically one of the tools that used to be part of the exploit kind of thing, targeting numbers of critical people. If you are referring to that or different things, but this one I have no idea. Sorry. Can share again?
The Pegasus voice call attack is referring for the attack on the where people call the automatically the phone is compromised.
Oh, I think that this is not the case. I mean, then we are referring to the same thing now. Pegasus voice attack is not per se in that perspective. I think there was like if you remember correctly, there was like a bug inside WhatsApp, which is a single call that eventually lead to compromise of your WhatsApp. This has been patched already. But the good things about current mobile ecosystem that you can't running on the old softwares anymore. I mean, it's automatically been updated, right? Unless if your OS is not updated. So the thing is, it's not voice call per se, but it's more like somebody make a call to WhatsApp, kind of like so WhatsApp eventually rely on a protocol to do voice call over the network, for example. I don't remember what was the protocol for that. It's probably MCTP or something. So that is like a vulnerabilities on that. So what happened was there is people that selling exploit using that kind of like a framework called Pegasus to make a call and eventually compromise your WhatsApp call and eventually end up like hacking into your phone. So that's what happened. But trust me, it's not going to happen at the large scale of it. Like people don't really use this kind of thing to for mass target, right? No, it's not going to happen to you. So don't worry much on this thing, unless you are, like I say, you're part of the nation state target lah. Kan? So I guess so it's kind of like a bit different than typical crappy on scammers and things, right? It's these two different things. Yes. So the next question is, that is like, what if we get ransom? So the question is about if you got, or if you already got ransoms. I don't know. It's hard for us to say this, but eventually it's hard for. I mean, in terms of recovery part, like you are at the mercy of having access to the master keys or the keys that belong to you, and definitely you don't have money sometimes to pay for those things. Even if you have money, don't pay it. I mean, like don't culturalize that things, right? Even the $100 ke 50 ringgit ke apa benda, don't culture that things, right? You don't do that. So, I mean, of course, you might be thinking like, hey, you know, my presentation ko esok ni, projek besar ke, FYP ke nak present esok, kan? But then, I mean, don't pay for that. You paying that is not necessary. You getting back your data anyway, right? In terms of what you can do when you get infected, I would say most of the time people want to, you know, delete and start fresh, you know, install new. But I would still consider this, you know, if those are data that having so much of memories or anything around that things. So I guess we need to, you know, maybe buy a new, instead of formatting it completely, instead of instead of completely remove the data, or format that things, you might want to have, I don't know, find a new storage and then reserve that data. You never know if somebody is eventually good enough to, you know, have the compromise those attackers and eventually leaking all those, you know, master keys and things. It happened before anyway. And it's also happened when that particular operators eventually do some sort of like getting some sort of like a revelation kind of moment. They realize, hey, I'm doing bad stuff, kind of insaf by now. So hey, this is master key. So at least you can afford to buy, I don't know, like a storage, then you know you might want to reserve that storage, right? Okay, anyhow, let's see what are the questions that you have. There are many ransomware decryption tools that is also useful to decrypt the file. It depends on the, that's questions involving about decryption tools, right? You have to also understand whenever somebody offering you these decryption tools, you have to understand there might be ransomware decoying to be a decryption tool as well. So just be careful on those. Try to make sure you get at the right source for those decryption tools. Yes, there are numbers of decryption tools from a certain number families of ransomware. I think there was a website called normalransomware.org. I think you can check it from there. Whereas there has a list of numbers of decryption tools that can use. Maybe from somebody compromised or hacked into these operators, or maybe because they found it like a vulnerabilities on the implementation of the encryptions. So you might potentially having this thing. So in terms of a specific ransomware type of families, for example, .encrypt, .errors, and bunch of other things. If you are looking at the recent ransomware, there is no, I would say, the decryption tool yet for those things. Yeah. Sorry for disappointing you guys, but that is the design of encryption, right? It's designed to secure your data. If there is no key, there is no decryption for you. If somebody say the other way around, I'm not sure what the guys is having anyway. So, so yeah. And definitely, as Akram pointed out, backup. That's a good thing to do anyway. But then when you got ransom, there is no point to do that backup anymore. Maybe you just want to, I don't know, if you don't have any, you know, hope for getting back the keys and things, you just, you know, I don't know, maybe formatting and that's about it. But then if you come from forensic point of view, just make sure that you can do a bit of recovery in terms of data recovery perspective, like those deleted files, those, I don't know, at the Slack space, you might find there's certain things from there. So load it into OptiSpice or whatever things, that might give you a bit of ideas. Yeah. So the next question is it safe to use password manager like LastPass extension to save your password so you don't have to remember? I think it's good practice to use a password manager. For example, LastPass, KeyPass, and things like that. It's a good thing to use. It's good practice, but this is going to be your silver bullet? Probably not. Like I said, it's good practice to use. Rather than use your sticky notes, use password manager. Okay, it's much easier. But if your LastPass extension compromised, it's the same thing anyway. Your password now have been exposed to one single compromise, then it's exposed to everyone's, right? Okay, it's safe because it's been taken care of by password manager. It's good practice to use, right? All right, I guess that's pretty
Okay.
much.
One question from me.
Yeah, go ahead, boss.
Okay, regarding your is meant to be clicked.
Against?
It's meant to be clicked.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yes. Is there some sort of technique if you want to know whether the link is legit or not? Because can sometimes link find with something else.
Yes. So the question was, can we do something to detect about the links, right? So because what we know is link is supposed to be clicking, right? I mean, somebody need to click on the link. So can technology help to do this? This is definitely an interesting topic to discuss, right? For example, every single things that travels over the network, if you have some sort of visibilities on that, you might want to inspect those things. For example, if the links coming to your email, definitely the email server has the visibility first to inspect the links or the contents of the email. It's a similar concept that when the attachment coming from the exe part, the mail server is going to look into it, and if it is coming from .exe as an attachment, then you want to block it, right? And in fact, you put it into junk or you put it into spam. The same thing that can be done on the link. If any link coming from into your mailbox, mail server need to do inspection. How does you detect link? How you detect those protocol? It's depending on how smart is your reggae, I would say, or how smart is your algorithm in terms of detecting either those part are a link or it's not, right? And it's good research as well to look into this. I mean, it's quite established research anyway, how to detect either this is laying or not, right? So the technology, that's what I said earlier on, we need a help of technologies to at least reduce this potential of detection on malicious link. If you found the links not within having a good reputation, for example, you might want to submit that link into your sandbox, for example, to further on analyze what in there. So those part of the technology is already there, but does it really widely used? Probably not, right? Maybe because at the client side detection is I think it's hard to do at massive scale. But I guess that is something that need to be done. And to answer the question, is that technology? Yes, there is technology to do that detection. And is that technology to detect either this is malicious or not? Yes, it is, but it requires certain numbers of combinations on multiple tools. You can use reputation. One link check with reputation tool. Is it like having score or not? Is it having high score? Immediately, put the email into junk box or something. If it's not reputation, then submit to your sandbox to execute the sandbox and try to track what is in there, right? So this kind of thing. All right. Answer that question.
We have one last question, Mahmud.
Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Mr. Mahmud. Hairul from Cybersecurity.
All right.
I have a question about actually you caught my interest about the terms on risk appetites now. Okay, and then actually one of our subject we on the digital forensic subject we learn about insurance after we are recovering data or after incident happen, and then how to recover data, how to and then involving the insurance company, and then what I'm going to ask is about, because it's related to one of my exercise that has been done at my company. We are actually trying to evaluate our asset classification, how the asset value, but in infrastructure basis, when you evaluate a data center, for example, the dollar and cents of the building, the infrastructure network, the gates, all the equipments. Of course, you can evaluate in dollar and cents. But when it comes to evaluating data in the sense of dollar and cents, it's not like you can evaluate how much is the data cost if it's been compromised lah. So
Right.
my question is, based on your experience, how normally you propose to your customer uh, the risk appetite, or how big is the risk that the company is facing when the data, of course, the financial company may be different, bank, for example, may be different with a transportation company. And then how it relates back to your framework setup before you set up a cybersecurity infrastructure in the company. So maybe you can share your experience, how actually you propose to the customer, how big is the issue, the risk faced based on the data of that company, Mr. Mahmud. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you, Harold, for the questions. I think it's just interesting topic to discuss on this. I think cyber insurance by itself is a good topic to discuss by its own topic alone, right? Anyhow, I try my level best try to navigate on this topic. So eventually, when you look into the cyber insurance kind of elements, before you eventually end up at getting some sort of premium of coverage, you need to understand what would be the values or the willingness of you want to protect or you want to insure your asset, right? But the thing is, what before you realizing that what kind of data you want to protect and then try to issue insurance on top of it, we have to understand the concept of insurance first. Because like insurance is kind of like a long, it's part of our living now, right? So the cash from the insurance is this. It's about premiums. If you have much higher values of asset that you want to protect, you have to realize one thing: you have much higher premium to be paid, right? And then, regardless how big is your cyber appetite, risk appetite, you end up realizing, oh shit, we're not supposed to reaching this amount of premiums, right? For example, if you want to protect your data center, amounting for premiums to be, I don't know, $10 million. If anything happen, are you willing to pay 25% of that premiums? So that would be something that we are still, I think we need to realize on that. And most of the time when we discuss a bit on insurance, when we brought that kind of questions, and then everybody was like, have one step back to thinking again. Should we do cyber insurance at all if this is the premium that we have to be paid, right? And clearly for a cybersecurity insurance provider, that is also need to be fair for themselves, right? For example, if they want to protect you in terms of monetary perspective, they need to be clear in terms of financial gains, because I don't think people that work in insurance doing this for the purpose of, can we say, welfare costs, right? Definitely there must be financial costs as well. So I think in terms of how you want to address this, I think if you can do a bit of segmentation, again, depending severities of segmentation in terms of severities, criticality of your asset, it definitely is a good idea, right? Start with something that you want to, you care the most. For example, internet-facing DMZ, for example, what would be potential breach from that? And then how much, if you look at in terms of how much money, this cannot be representing by kilobyte, for example. The data size is 10G, so it must supposed to be 10 grand. No, this wasn't the case at all. This is subject to your criticality of data interpretation. You yourself, the clients need to understand how critical that information for them. And instead of valuing in terms of uh, the money perspective, maybe you want to values in terms of criticality. For example, is this is this critical? Security is critical. Then this is the amount of money that you want to willing to spend. If this is the amount for like a mediums, and then this is probably the amount of range that you want to issue for your premium. So that might be much flexible in that sense, rather than putting one email account compromised, then this is the amount. One server compromised, this will be the amount, right? Try to navigate into that perspective, and I think it's much easier for that perspective, yeah? So I hope that answer your question, Hyrule. Again, so I know by no means I'm an expert in this cyber insurance kind of thing. All right, thanks for answer that question, Hyrule.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. With the question, is the end our web seminar.
Yep.
Okey, Pusat Data CTM mengucapkan terima kasih tak tinggal kepada Encik Mahmud di atas kesediaan berkongsi ilmu pengetahuan pada pagi ini.
Tadi mute.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, one last question about requirement from our members need to take photo from all of us. Mama, can you please matikan Cik Mahmud punya presentation untuk semua sekali yang masuk gambar?
Sorry, you're breaking out. What was you saying?
Close dia punya presentation Cik Mahmud untuk main gambar.
Oh, okay. Close presentation. Okay. Sorry, I'm figuring out how to close this thing. Okay, stop sharing. Stop sharing. All right, cool. All right.
Yang lain boleh sama-sama kita buka webcam untuk main gambar. We have 127. Ada yang dalam ni Cik Mahmud kenal ke?
Certain names recall, certain handle recalling ada certain numbers of it. Thank you guys for coming along. Sorry for destroying your weekend anyway.
Already destroyed today.
Hopefully it's worthwhile.
Prepare main gambar.
How does to do this view for all?
Ada ke before on? Okay. Before we end up our session, untuk semua please register balik semula dalam form yang telah diberikan ya. With all kita lambai dan kita end. Terima kasih banyak Encik Mahmud di atas penerangan yang berinformatif. Okay, Assalamualaikum.
All right, thank you all. Thank you for organizer. Thank you for your item, Dr. Fakra,
Thank you, Encik Mahmud.
All right, thanks all. And please enjoy your weekend, guys, and stay safe at home. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thanks, Mahmud.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Mr.
All right, no worries.
Okay, thank you.